One time, there was a group of 6 intelligent, young, innovative, motivated, dynamic, astute researchers. They had only one limitation, that they were blind. But they were out on an interesting research statement. The research statement was, how does an elephant look like? And they went into the state-of-the-art laboratory of the forest, which was replete with all the facilities. And here was a lab apparatus. And what we see is all these 6 researchers trying to figure out, with the latest state-of-the-art tools, to figure out how does an elephant look like. So they use their intelligence, they use their measurement, and then they utilize their modeling skills and came up with a model of how does an elephant look like based on their observations. Just that these researchers were blind. And what you see is the research results of what they published in international journals. So some of them said, yes, an elephant looks like a tree, an elephant looks like a snake, an arrow, a wedge, a rope. But how can there be discrepancy in how does an elephant look like? Where lies the fallacy is the point to focus on. Is the lab apparatus a problem? Is the lab setting a problem? Okay, we accept that the researchers are blind, but given that they are blind, are they never going to understand reality? Are they always going to be in darkness about such a simple thing like what's an elephant, how does an elephant look like? Or can they ever get a complete idea? Where is the problem? Or is not the problem in the methodology? That the methodology which these researchers are trying to utilize to understand how does an elephant look like, the methodology of feeling, that methodology which gives them an idea of a portion of reality, an incomplete aspect of reality. So this gives rise to an interesting field of knowledge which is called as epistemology, the science of cognition. How do we get to know about the knowledge of the world around us? These 6 researchers, although they are blind, so that blindness is giving them a limited view of the reality. And therefore, they are getting an incomplete picture. And when they make incomplete when they say that, okay, this is what is all in all, then they are making a mistake. So they could have overcome this blindness by first hearing from a person who has eyes, and understanding how does an elephant look like in a theory class, taking notes, and then going and doing the experiment. Then they would have been able to get a proper understanding. This is epistemology. So in this way we can understand that the methodology we use in life to get knowledge about the reality of this world shapes our understanding and the direction of what course we are going to take forward in life. There are 3 ways of gaining knowledge. Pratyaksha, direct sense perception. What I can see, what I can taste, what I can smell, what I can touch, direct sense perception. Anuman, guesswork, maybe it is like this, like that. Shabda, hearing from a bona fide authority. Let's evaluate them one by one. Pratyaksha, direct sense perception. It said that, okay, unless I see it, I don't believe in it. Seeing is the benchmark of reality. But we can see in life there are many things which we see and we don't believe. These rail tracks appear to be merging. A person in a convex or a concave mirror appears to be very caricature. If Miss World were to believe what she is seeing in a convex concave mirror, she'll get a heart attack. The stick appears to be tilted. There appears to be mirage. These are things which we see and don't believe, because we know they are not reality. And there are many things which we don't see and believe, like electrons, like airs. Without a mirror, even our eyelids we don't see. We believe in them. We believe in soul. So that means matrix of reality is far beyond seeing. Same thing appears, same thing applies to hearing, same thing applies to feeling, smelling, touching, smelling, everything. So we see that our senses are creating a limitation. Our eyes only see 700 to 900, 400 to 700, nanometers of the EM spectrum, very small portion. Our ears only hear 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz, a very limited spectrum. Something is very close to our eyes, we cannot see. Something is very far off, we cannot see. So there are limitations which this direct sense perception gives us. If reality is this big, then because of the limitation of our senses, all we are getting is this much. Now an interesting question can come that, okay, although our senses are limited, but our gadgets are becoming more and more precise, and therefore we will be able to get better and better knowledge. Now this question is answered by Eugene Wigner, Nobel Prize winning physicist himself. He says, even if you photograph stars, even if your telescopes and instruments are more precise than the eyes, ultimately you are interpreting that with your eyes. Secondly, you operate the instrument with your own senses. And even if you are making instruments more and more precise, ultimately it's your senses only manipulating, so there is going to be a limitation there also. So what he is saying is that you can never overcome the limitation which is imposed by the imperfection of the senses, no matter what you do. Just like in a chain, the weakest link of the chain decides the strength of the chain. So we have imperfect senses, but that's not the end of the defects what we have. There are more defects. In fact, there are 4 defects which all of us are endowed with. The second defect is the tendency to get illusioned. We eat a slice of an orange after tasting gulab jamun, it will appear sour. Now we taste lemon and take another slice of the same orange, it appears sweet. Similarly, we put our hand in a warm place, put it in normal water, it appears cool. Put our hand in refrigerator, put it in normal water, it appears warm. So now the point is that this is what is called as conditioning. That means the experience which the senses are giving very much depends on what happened to it before. It's relative. This is conditioning. A person who stays near a railway line may many times confuse between the sound of a pressure cooker and the sound of the whistle of the train. Conditioning. We tend to get illusion. Have a look at this image. What do we see in this image? We can watch carefully. What do we see in this image? Some people may be able to see an old lady in this image. Others will see a young lady. Others will see none. Some will see both. So the old lady is facing this way. Now this way. The young lady is facing diagonal. Therefore, the chin of the young lady is the nose of the old lady, and the necklace of the young lady is the mouth of the old lady. So the question is this an old lady or a young lady? A lady can be only either old or young, it cannot be both. So this is called as selective vision. That in what setting we see, the reality appears to be like that. Now, the same eyes, when they look at the reality of this world, the same eyes which we have, scientists also have, researchers also have. And therefore in science also we may land up in this kind of paradox. Just like, say for example, whether light is a wave or a particle. That question is same as saying whether light is a young lady or old lady. So one scientist said that no, it's a wave, it's an old lady. Another said that no, it's a young lady, it's a corpuscle. And for centuries we can debate about it. What is light? The point to accept is that our ways of seeing are having an inherent limitation to get illusion. And therefore this way we see it's young lady, that way we see it's old lady. and our scientific research is very much imbued with this defect. What do you see here? This is an example of imaginative vision. There is no triangle out here, although it appears to be very prominently there. We are only imagining a triangle. Now just imagine the same eyes when they look at the universe, when they look at the microscopic objects to figure out morphologies and patterns, or when they look at cosmological details. Can you not imagine forms which actually don't exist? Another example. What you see here in this picture is multiple realities. There are two men playing music, there is an old man, woman, there is a vase, there is a young lady. So when we look at reality, this is contextual vision. We may miss out some or the other detail of it. So we have not got a complete picture. And this defect very much can take place. So we have a tendency to get delusioned. Now when we get delusioned, we commit mistakes. One time the brain was thought to be an organ to cool the blood, or pituitary was considered to be a useless tissue, vestige. Hubble's constant, cosmological yardstick, has been changed 3 times. Many scientists no more call it as a Hubble's constant. They say it's a Hubble's variable because it keeps changing. Now mistakes are not always very innocent. Mistakes do take a big toll. It's like, medical mistakes kill thousands of people. In America, 90,000 people get killed annually because of medical mistakes. Mistakes are dangerous and hazardous. And the worst thing of all, the fourth defect, is when there are mistakes, there is a tendency to hide, to cheat. Cheating propensity. So here we are seeing in Darwin's theory of evolution, for example, which says that one species over a period of millions of years evolved into another, and Darwin said that fossil record will be the supreme court of justice, which will be the proof for these species. So what the scientists wanted to figure out was the missing link. That means a fossil which is depicting half species, an intermediate between 2 species, say half reptile, half mammal, or so on. So one of the figment or one of the aspects of evolution is that man came from monkeys. But in 1912 there was an amazing skull which was discovered, which was a human-like skull having an ape-like jaws, and this was considered to be the missing link. It was kept in Harvard Medical Museum. 41 years later it was discovered that it was all a hoax, it was all a cheating. It was a human skull, it was a human jaw, it was filed to look like an ape. Like this, there are accounts of numerous cheating proofs which have come in the field of, or which we have encountered in the evolution of science. So based on this, this was pratyaksha. Based on pratyaksha or observation is modeling, speculation. Perhaps it would have been like this, it was like that, actually, connecting the dots. So theory is based on observation is called as anuman. Anuman is guesswork. It's just like, suppose a very high decibel sound is coming, people are shouting from a home and we are outside. So what's happening? One may say, people are fighting. Another person may say, no, they are watching a movie, and the movie there is dishum going on, therefore there is shouting going on. Another person may say, and no, you may knock at the door and you will see neither movie is going on, now people are fighting, they are practicing dramatics for a cultural event. So guesswork, anuman. Just like Charles Darwin in The Origin of Species, he says that, I am a firm believer that without speculation there is no good in original observation. And he said that I studied various morphologies, meditated on them, then I allowed myself to speculate, and I enlarged them into a sketch of conclusions which seemed to me probable. And that's how he says that he designed the whole evolution gamut. One of the short stories in that gamut, it says, there was a bear in North America, and this bear, not getting food on the land, started spending more time in water. His species became more water friendly and started spending more and more time in water, and our species after spending more and more time in water, and this way the bear became a whale. the bear became a whale, but didn't feel like coming out because there was a lot of food in the water. It happened over millions of years. This is one of the examples of how Darwin says, he allowed himself to speculate of what it could be. This turn into that. It's Anuman. So now we understand that there is problem. If we stick on to a methodology which is based on Pratyaksha and Anuman, we may land up into problem. What is the problem? Let's see principally first, and then we will see examples. Principally, reality is this much. Because of imperfect senses, we are getting this much. On that, we get illusioned, so it becomes further less. On that, we commit mistakes, it becomes further less. On that, there is cheating, so it becomes further less. Now it is only this much. On that, we speculate, so it becomes only this much. And now we have this much, and then we are saying, why am I not becoming happy in life? I am interfacing reality. Our reality was this big. What you have is this much. How can you be happy? And therefore, there are problems. Simply basing life on Pratyaksha and Anuman. And we have seen these problems in the history of mankind. Just like, say, for example, a Bisleri bottle. A Bisleri bottle, very convenient. It's a good substitute for a glass bottle. But water kept in a Bisleri will become poisonous. 6 months. There are problems in making mistakes in research. Mobile, very powerful technology. Life is very difficult without a mobile. It causes great inconvenience. But then scientists discovered that mobile radiations create damage. If you talk for a very long time, it creates damage to the head. If you keep it here, it creates damage to the heart. If you keep it in the pant pocket, it creates damage to the genitals. That area. Where to keep? Big question. When bubonic plague hit the surface of UK and Europe, when it started from UK, it hit Europe. It was an epidemic, a deadly, bloody epidemic. But when it hit, actually, scientists were doing ingenious research. They were trying to, burn the midnight oil and figure out what is the cause of this plague, the deadly disease. And after a great amount of research, they came up. They said, no, plague is caused by cats. And then the governments gave order immediately kill all the cats in the whole country, so countries, governments gave this order. Cats were killed massively all around. And the doctors were having a sigh of relief that okay, now people were having a sigh of hope. Things will get controlled. But over the days, the plague increased 10 times, 100 times. It became uncontrolled. Explosion was taking place. And then the doctors, scientists, everybody came back to the lab, started retracing what mistake happened, retracing their footsteps, and then they came up with where they found out where they committed an error, and then they said, oh, sorry. It's not a cat. Plague is caused by a rat. We are very sorry for the plague is caused by a rat. But now the problem was that there were no cats, kill rats. So there are problems with mistakes. In fact, we can see that the solution to one problem leads to invention of further problems. Just like, say, television or video games. It is a good form of entertainment, but then we are seeing that because of the addiction which is being which people are getting into, it spoils people's careers. We also see actually that in the form of television and many times gaming, instincts of insensitivity, violence, cruelty are being injected into children because they are seeing lakhs of violent scenes, and therefore the fine subtle qualities which are needed for dealings in humanity, that's getting lost. Problems. Biogenetic engineering. You can get any fruit, any vegetable at any time. You can get such a lush red pigment apple. Seeing the texture is irresistible. The color, the lush red apple. But then you start chewing it. It has no juice. It's like chewing a dry thamkol. Problems. In fact, modern day solution to one problem poses a bigger problem. Just like, say for example, pesticides. The pesticides were there so that no, the crop production can increase, but then pesticides make grounds barren. Pesticides come in the form of chemicals, they get stored in the vegetables, it's leading to diseases in people. The farmers get diseases like cancer and so on. A bigger problem. People wanted some convenience like that, therefore they came up with the concept of, say, credit cards or home loans. Now it creates convenience, but the point was that previously when people had to spend money, so every 100 rupee note you take out, it pains in the heart, people would stop after some time. But now you have credit card, you don't feel like what has happened, and therefore person may go in a macho man style with his wife and say, okay, take my credit card, take anything you want. But then he'll go back to his office on Monday, Tuesday, and he'll say a bill has come of 1.5 lakh rupees. It will take him 2 months to make it up for it. Why? Because there is no feeling now. It's just a credit card, quick, is it not? Similarly, home loan, you can take a home without having any money. But then when you have to pay the monthly EMI, it creates so much of stress and strain and troubles in people's lives, to pay back for it. So the point is that bigger problems. In fact, sometimes the solution is worse than the initial problem. Like the problem of entertainment, but the solution is actually creating a character problem, which is a much bigger problem in case of television, movie addiction and all that. So in this way we can understand that we need absolute knowledge. We cannot just rely on relative knowledge. We'll end up in making so many mistakes. That's why our setups are always incomplete. There is always something which is lacking in whatever mankind, whatever invention, whatever product comes into the marketplace of mankind, because it is all based on Pratyaksha Anuman. So now the point is that just like you purchase a mobile, the manufacturer gives a manual. You purchase a SIM, the manufacturer gives a manual. Why will God not give a manual for the cosmic machine, the universe which we are in actually? So we don't have to keep groping in the dark. God has given us a manual for life. And to understand this manual, we need to understand the third and a very important way of gaining knowledge, which is Shabda Praman, hearing from a bona fide authority. So Shabda means hearing from a bona fide authority, just like you're traveling in a plane, an international flight, and the president of Sweden happens to sit next to you. Unless somebody tells you, how will you get to know about it? So Anuman and Pratyaksha were having limitations, but now in Shabda we are hearing from a bona fide authority. We supersede those limitations. Just like if a child has to understand who is his father, you can do genetic DNA fingerprinting. If it takes 5 minutes for one genetic fingerprint, it may take 800 years to do the genetic fingerprinting of all possible male population who can be a father of this child. And then you will land up in 200 cases whose DNAs will be so close that you cannot make a distinction. So best is, that's inductive knowledge. Hit and trial, explore, enjoy the exploration. It may be a perpetual loop, and our existence may bloop by that time. Therefore, a more holistic way to understand is just ask the mother. The mother will tell you who is the father. So the Vedas are our mother, and they tell us who is God, who is our supreme father. Vedas give us GK, God knowledge. The entire gamut of the Shabda or the knowledge of life is like a university. It's like a spiritual university. Just like there is an existing panel of MBBS doctors, they train a new student, they test him, they rectify him, they mold him, and after years, when they are convinced that he is now good enough, he is mature enough, then they give him the title of a doctor. Now he can start prescribing. Similarly, there is an existing set of bona fide authorized professors of spiritual knowledge. They are called as Acharya, as a guru, and they train and test a person over decades. And when they are convinced that this person has got matured enough, then they can confer upon him the title of being a teacher himself, like that. So just like in education system, there are these boards. In class 12, there are these ICSE, CBSE. Similarly, in Sanskrit, board is called as, an education board is called as Parampara Sampradaya. There are 4 Sampradayas or 4 universities, boards. Any college has to have affiliation of one of these 4. Sri Sampradaya, the founding principle, Mother Lakshmi. Brahma Sampradaya, the founding principle, Lord Brahma. Rudra Sampradaya, the founding principle, Lord Shiva. Kumar Sampradaya, the founding principles of the 4 sons of Brahmaji. The authorized course books, textbooks, the Vedic texts like Gita. So in this way, it is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam that the Lord gave the knowledge to the founding principle of the Brahma Sampradaya, for example. Tene Brahma Hidayadikave, the Vedic knowledge was revealed to Brahmaji. So Brahmaji revealed it further to his students, and this way a chain of disciplic succession started. So generally a teacher at any level will be repeating what his professor taught him and what he experimented and realized from his own experience as well. He is sharing that. In this way, the person, although the teacher, he may not himself be 100% spiritually awakened, but the knowledge which he is speaking, because he is repeating what he has heard from his teachers and is sincerely applying in his life, that knowledge is perfect, and we hear that knowledge and apply it, will make a positive impact in us. That is the beauty of Shabda Praman. So the same knowledge was being passed in a disciplic succession or professor-student relationship. But 5,000 years before, Vyasadeva understood that people are going to have less memory, they will have more data storage into gigabyte, terabyte, hard disks, and the brain storage will be less. So therefore he recorded these Vedas in the form of writing. So that gives us an added benefit. Then when we see a teacher who is explaining, we can cross-check with the written manuscripts, whether he's teaching the same thing or not. Whether the professors in the line, their teachings which are recorded also, we can match all that, and this way we can get, this creates a foolproofing test whether a particular teacher is bona fide or not. So now one may say that and this is the whole oceanic tree of Vedic knowledge. There is Shruti. Shruti are the direct words of God, and Smriti are the realizations of further explanations of the words of God, that is Shruti, by the sages and great devotees. Shruti is like the mother, and Smriti is like the elder sister who is explaining the concepts what the mother has taught. Now one may say that, okay, so this goes to show that Shabda Praman is very important, but can we blindly believe it? Is there and Pratyaksha Anuman are incomplete, so they should be rejected? So to understand this, we have to understand that, just like the case of 6 blind men, if they would have heard a session from a person who has eyes, that part of knowledge transfer is called as Shabda. Then they would have experimented, they would have got a complete knowledge of the elephant. That would have made things perfect and complete. So therefore, Shabda is not to be blindly accepted. We can utilize our Pratyaksha and Anuman to testify Shabda. Testify Shabda. And in this way, Pratyaksha and Anuman have a place value, but only after the directions given by Shabda. That is the point we have to understand. They have a place value, but only after the directions which are given by Shabda. Otherwise, Pratyaksha and Anuman on its own are give us an incomplete picture, and when we say the incomplete is complete, then it becomes incorrect. So the bits and pieces of jigsaw puzzle will fit in once we have heard, once we have got knowledge of Shabda first. Therefore, Shabda can create completeness in our life. So therefore, in life, we need to be having the attitude of a real scientist, a broad heart to explore, very diligently follow, meticulously to follow. Just like in electronics experiment, a person is given some 50 connections to make. Then if he makes 40 and opens the electric signal, at best nothing will happen. But in general, actually there may be some spark, some chip may burn off and things like that, because he has not made the circuitry complete. Similarly, the Vedas are giving us the experiment of life. If we follow all the injunctions and prescriptions meticulously, then when we and print switch on the implementation switch, we can see the perfect graph of meaning and fulfillment coming in our lives. We will get full marks. So therefore, let's have a scientific attitude, broad-minded attitude to explore these instructions which are given in the Vedas, apply it in our life, and through these directions apply a Pratyaksha and Anuman, and to see and then see that how it makes our lives meaningful and complete. Thank you.